Hot off the heels of a Lightbringers podcast episode, I'm coming over to you, my YouTube channel, talking about the next Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons Elite Specialization teaser. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Oh my gosh, we have yet another Elite Specialization to go over and talk about and really dissect. I was just on the Lightbringers with lovely Boots and also Deeg, and we had a really great time talking about, of course, the subject we're going to be talking about, but also fishing and skiffs. So I'll have a link down below if you'd like to hear the entire podcast, unedited thoughts, and all that stuff. But without further ado, let's talk about this image. Ow! Okay, so first and foremost, we have this new Elite Specialization teaser. Immediate reaction, Elementalist. Elementalist all the way. The color scheme it's kind of purplish, not a little pinkish, a little red, slightly warmer. We definitely have a familiar sense of the color palette. This is often representative of the Elementalist, but of course they always like to add a little flair with Elementalist, considering you're juggling a lot of attunements. But for the most part, from the color scheme and also the armor and the character's stance, it seems to be a bit more elegant, even though they seem to be holding a hammer. And also, they seem to be garbed and draped in light armor. And the only light armor elite specialization we have not seen yet would be Elementalist. So with that said, I'm going to be going into this overall thoughts and dissection video with Elementalist in mind. So first, my initial reaction was to focus on that really deep purple ink strike behind the character. I was like, oh, Arcane. My immediate reaction was Arcane or some chaos attunement, chaos magic. And we haven't actually seen that as a full attunement on Elementalists yet. They currently have an Arcane utility skill selection and Arcane trait line, but we haven't had a specialization focus in on that aspect of magic that Tyria has. And I think this would be the perfect opportunity to do so in End of Dragons, considering we're talking a lot about dragon magic and the balance of magic in the world. The next thing that I focused in on was, of course, the weapon. This appears to be a hammer. What might this do? Is it going to be melee or ranged? Me, personally, para mí, if you're asking for me, I would really like to see Elementalist utilize the hammer in a more magical way, a little bit more creative, similar to that of a Revenant wielding a hammer. Revenants can use hammers at long range by throwing mist bolts from a max range. I think this would be the perfect opportunity to add this to the Elementalist and have it be ranged, considering the Tempest and also the Weaver were a little bit more melee-centric. They wanted you to be a bit closer to the target. And I think with a bunch of the existing elite specs being very fast, mobile, getting to the target, having an elite spec that focuses at range would be a perfect pairing to play with the other elite specs. So I would really like to see if this hammer is ranged or not. In addition to that, for a two-hander, staff is the only two-handed weapon Elementalist can use, and it's very power-oriented. There's not really a main hand or a two-handed condition damage weapon that Elementalist currently has. So I'm wondering if Ellie might be getting some more condition application. I wouldn't mind to see it, considering that Ellie already has condition capabilities, but it necessarily hasn't been focused in on. Weaver touched it a little bit, but this could be the perfect opportunity to do that. So that's the deal with the hammer. Next, we have this, what appears to be a bauble. I was calling it a bauble on the podcast. It could be some sort of astrological foci or some other instrument of some sorts. But originally, I thought that this could be just a spell. But then I really looked at it, and our fellow podcasters looked at it, and we started talking about it. And we were wondering why ArenaNet would highlight this one aspect. It's not necessarily looking like a spell, though it could be. It appears to have a little bit more detail to it, and that would lead me to think that this is somehow representative of the profession mechanic for Elementalists. This could be what I was thinking, some sort of arcane familiar, if this in fact is an arcane attunement situation. You could have this arcane familiar or some sort of minion that isn't necessarily an AI helping you in combat, giving you some extra boosts, storing up your energy to release it at once. And that's what I really landed on, was that this could be some sort of secondary feature the Elementalist would have to focus on. Another interesting aspect that we talked about on the podcast would be the colors of this. This currently is only really pink, red, and orange hues. There's no real hint at there being any water attunement or earth attunement, though air you could consider like purple and stuff. So that led us to the conversation of, what if this Elementalist elite specialization, one of the core mechanics would be that you only can attune to 2 or 3 elements at any given time. I think this would be actually really interesting to offer Elementalists a bit more of a simplified playstyle, to where it's easier to pick up. You don't necessarily have to manage 4 different attunements at once. And this would still work and still be fine to do, considering when you slot into the Elementalist and you slot into their elite spec, you only have 2 other core traits to use, this being fire, water, air, earth, or arcane. And if they do add an arcane element, arcane attunement, that would be perfect for you to swap into fire and arcane, while you can only use fire and arcane. Or if you want to go with water and earth and be a bit more bruisery and help your allies out, or if you want to be more control, AoE damage, go with air and fire, you know, something along those lines. But there was conversation, and Boots did bring this up, that Elementalist would need to gain something in addition to that, because they do rely so heavily on having 4 attunements at once and being able to mix and weave into those different abilities. So I think that would be fine. And to that I would say they have had minor traits on elite specializations, like Herald, where just by selecting Herald, you have 10% increased health. And I think that could be the case for Elementalist, that when you slot into this specialization, you have 10-15% increased health baseline, just to play into that, you know, giving the Elementalist something that they have lost. But overall, I'm really interested. We went into a whole lore conversation about the implications that magic has in the world of Tyria, especially in End of Dragons, and I am super excited to see more next week when we actually get all 3 trailers, presumably, starting Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday, having that massive live stream going in full detail about all the elite specialization teasers that we've gotten so far. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. Also, last side note, this character is rocking a bomb ponytail, and I would love that as a character customization option. But once again, thank you everyone so much for coming. I would love to hear what you guys have to say about this little teaser. So like, subscribe, comment down below if you'd like to support the channel. I have a Patreon, and I'm also an official ArenaNet partner, which means if you want to pre-order End of Dragons, I have links down below. Or if you want to get the expansions right now, you can. Or try the game for free. So thank you everyone for your continued support. I can't wait to see what this is all about, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye everybody. Mwah.